Hey, Chris Jenkins, a.k.a. Man of the People, covering the Carolina Panthers for Charlotte Vibe. You have a friend in the media, which is me, here to answer all of your questions about this Carolina Panthers team. And I got a feeling that I'm going to have to give you some coach talk and say, I got to review the tape to be able to answer some of your questions. This was a bad game. I can't even try to sugarcoat it any kind of way to talk about this game today. But we're going to talk about it as much as we can. Carolina Panthers 10, your New Orleans Saints 47, and it was a game in which we didn't stop the Saints. We didn't stop them. I forget how many possessions it was in a row in which this team scored. I think it was about 9, and the only reason that we had them stop scoring was because Derek Carr came out. They basically waved the white flag, put the other guy in, and we actually got to see the punter for the New Orleans Saints. So nevertheless, we're going to go through recapping things from today, including the coach. Perhaps we'll have Vashti Hurt stop back by to break down some of the action from the locker room. We're going to go over some stats, and we're going to go over some photographs. And you know what? I got to hear from you guys. I got to hear from you all what you think, what you feel. I said pregame that I felt like Canales was a guy that could be the coach for this team. Not saying he's going to come out and win it all, take us to the Super Bowl, but I felt like with his personality, with the culture he's building, I felt like I said in the pregame show, there's going to be a floor that's established here. A worst-case scenario for this team. It's only week 1, so I will say that a little bit, but I will go on to say before I get into this show, this is on our head coach. This is squarely on our head coach. When you have a team that performs this poorly, absolutely poorly, coaching. You gotta coach these guys better than they were coached today. But we're gonna get into it. Again, thanks everybody for signing on. Leave your questions. We're gonna get to it as soon as we can. We're gonna go ahead and get you with some visuals from this ugly game. One good thing, it may be a bad game, but we're always gonna have the best pictures of a bad game that you can find out there on the internet. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start to get into these photographs. That is the look of a man that is probably wondering what in the world is going on. I just lost 47-10 against the New Orleans Saints. That's Bryce Young at the end of the game, walking off the field. And this was, I'm going to get into some stats in a little bit here to break down this game some more, but this is a fumble by Jonathan Mingo today. And Mingo had more than one fumble. He had another one. I like to point out things because it was down here on this end of the field when he had caught the ball, got hit, flipped over. I feel like they finally said, well, let's just go ahead and give them one. Let's just try to keep this game moving along, because to me that was a fumble. But nevertheless, Jonathan Mingo there with a fumble. Moving on. Here's a good play. I believe this is Taysom Hill that's being defended, and the ball was knocked out of his hands, and the Carolina Panthers were able to avoid getting a score on that particular play, weren't able to keep it going for the game. But again, great photographs by our guy Patrick Snyder. This one should be on the cover of some great, I don't know, magazine, hopefully not. I was thinking of something bad I'm going to skip and say there. But there's Bryce Young just looking on at the game. And this is reminiscent of a great picture that was from a bad time of one Cam Newton that looked very similar, just kind of sitting there watching things going on. Bryce Young watching the Saints go marching, unfortunately. This was Bryce Young under some pressure. Again, we're going to go over the stats today. I'm not sure how many times that he was sacked, but it was more than once. Sometimes it was on the blitzes. Other times it was not, but it was still too many times that Bryce Young was in the grass. All right. I am not able to exactly see the action on this one. Oh, okay. I see it. This is I see the ball now by the Saints. Thielen's nearby. Can't tell who that is on the ground. Sorry, Patrick, I don't know what that picture is. But continue to move on. We got a touchdown here by the Saints. One of many that they had today. At least there were some players nearby, but they scored there. Beginning of the game vibes here. Bryce Young before the trouble. Bryce Young before the storm. Carolina Panthers at the Caesars Dome had a tough loss today to the New Orleans Saints. And I told you, I'm going to get to the stats here in just a second about this game today, but here it is, Bryce Young on the ground there. Saints going after the ball. Don't think that was a fumble, but he was certainly hit on that play right there. No, I'm sorry. We're going backwards here. I have these out of order. This is Bryce Young on the touchdown run late in the game. My apologies. This is Bryce Young on the touchdown run late in the game. Let me see if I can reverse the order here because I think I got these pictures. I might have loaded them backwards. Yeah, so I had them a little backwards here, but here's Bryce on that touchdown run. And let me just say, I'm trying to get this. Yeah, let me just say thank you to the people up in New York who decided to say, hold on. Let's review this. It is a touchdown. Give them points on the board because it was a tough day for the Carolina Panthers. But this is the play in which Bryce Young was crossing the goal line. And that's a good shot, right? I mean, that's Patrick is excellent what he does. This is a shot. Bryce crossing the goal line. Ball is basically on the goal line, but probably if he was able to get just a frame early, you would see that he made it. And then this is him Bryce continuing to make it through on that. Continue to move on. Xavier Legette couldn't quite bring it in on this play here, but nevertheless, another great shot from today's game and the action. Bryce Young getting close to scoring. I think this was on that same drive in the fourth quarter as the Panthers were finally putting something together, getting the ball down the field. And, this is what happens towards the end of a game. Even when you're the home team, even when you're winning, that your home team does not even stay and watch the full game. This game was sold out. It was a full house here in New Orleans. I think about 70,000 people. But this shot here was taken with about 3 minutes to go, and everybody knew the outcome of the game was already decided at that point. So there's a look at the photos of the game again. That's our great photographer, Patrick Snyder, taking those photographs. You can see many more on our Twitter and also on our Instagram, as we'll post more pictures for you to take a look at and soak in this game as we'll continue to cover this team. Hey, that's one thing that I am going to be, right? Rain or shine, good or bad, going to bring you all the information that I can about this Carolina Panthers team, and I think that's something to be of value here to continue to tune into the channel. Like, subscribe. Shouts out to all my members that are hanging out there with me. We're going to grind this out, and I still have some faith in Canales, but I will again say extremely disappointed in his coaching, and he's going to be tested early on in his coaching career, right? That outcome today, 47-10, 37-point loss. They almost gave up 50 points. It was bad, and now he's going to have to get these guys looking really good, turning around for that home opener next week in Charlotte. For me, what I saw with these guys out there today, I mean, I can't wait to watch this. I'm going to probably watch this about 20 times to just really see a little bit more about what was going on, because it didn't seem like we were just getting terrible, but it just terrible things kept happening. It was for me watching it. It was the weirdest thing in watching this game, that they're just going point after point. We can't stop them. Miscommunications, turnovers, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go ahead and continue to work through this show. Continue to leave your comments. I'm going to get to them after we get through recapping everything. Let me know what you want to talk about. Let me know your question. Or if you're just pissed off, frustrated, want to make a statement, let me know as well, all right, so I can get that in on the show. All right, let's continue to work through things here. So, unfortunately, we will not have Vashti. She was going to try to stop by. She goes in the locker room after the game, but she will not be able to do that. So, be sure to tune in tomorrow. I'll be able to give you some more information about that locker room atmosphere. Not able to go in the locker rooms right now because I want to come on live and go ahead and recap this show. So, let's go ahead and get into the stats, which tell the story from this game today. Here we go. Bryce Young, 13 of 30. 13, that's under 50%. 5.4 yard average, 0 touchdowns. I repeat, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, sacked 4 times, passer rating of just under 35. Not good enough. Not good enough at all. So, I said pregame, all training camp, defense was getting the best of the offense. But I started to have a little change of heart as we had a good performance against the Jets and duel and that joint practice. And then we went up to Buffalo, had a good drive. Things looked promising, but it just seemed like nothing could even get started today. Even on the defensive side, early on, when that was a long touchdown, J.C. Horn was playing. I forget who he was on. I think it might have been Rashid. Don't quote me on that. But I saw him run like a post route, and as he ran it, you could tell that J.C. Horn seemed and felt like he had some help, and the safety bit on the underneath route that was crossing and didn't give J.C. any help. And, off to the races they go, and little did we know that would be the story of the day, score after score on this team. Andy Dalton did come in late in the fourth quarter, 1 pass attempt. But there you go, Andy Dalton. Do you guys think Andy Dalton should have come in any sooner than he did? Nevertheless, go through some more of these stats here. Rushing, 58 yards rushing. Now, I usually don't talk too much about the other team's stats and what they did, but the Saints in their rushing attack, much better. Alvin Kamara, 83 yards. Saints as a whole had 180 rushing yards. They pretty much had rushing what we had overall for the game. It's bad. It's really bad. All right, let me continue to work through these stats here. Oh, I was going to say, been saying all preseason that I can't really get a good grip on our running attack. That's the toughest thing to evaluate. I'd say the linemen are also up there, but the running backs are the toughest thing to evaluate because during the preseason, you don't know how good these guys are. Number one, they're not taking anybody down. They're doing what they call thuds. And so you really can't see what that running back can do because it's not taken down to the ground, which is, the epitome of what happens with running backs. They have to be taken down to the ground. So I said, I don't know what they look like, but we saw a glimpse today. Sanders, 5 carries, 22 yards. Chuba, 6 carries, 14 yards. Bryce had 4 carries, boom, got in there. Mingo had a carry, 58 yards total, 2.9 average. Not good enough. Receiving. Now, we did have 161 yards receiving. Adam Thielen and Jonathan Mingo able to catch somewhat of long balls, getting down there with 32 and 35 yards long, respectfully. Xavier Legette, 4 receptions on 7 targets. So that's pretty interesting. I didn't notice that in watching the game day at all. But Xavier Legette, who had some injuries that he was dealing with during the preseason, had an injury during OTAs, had one during training camp. Wondered what his involvement would be like. I knew for sure that Xavier would be involved. Good for him getting involved where he was targeted 7 times, brought it in 4 times, had a long of 18. And definitely the disappointment in my eyes, Deontay Johnson. 2 catches on 6 targets. 2 catches. He didn't even get his first catch until under a minute to go in the first half. Didn't expect that. Did not expect Deontay to get his first target. No, I'm sorry, not his first target, his first reception until just under a minute to go in the first half. But that was the result of that. Go on the defensive side, Shaq Thompson doing pretty good today. Shaq Thompson, A'Shawn Robinson leading with tackles. Shaq with some two tackles for a loss. Shaq Thompson actually had a pretty good game today. Ikuo Leota as well with 4 tackles. He had 1 sack, had 3 tackles for a loss. So Ikuo Leota Doing very, very good. And there you see the stats of the rest of the team out there. DJ Johnson playing opposite of Clowney. Johnson with a couple of tackles as well. Clowney did not show up much on the stat sheet today. That is something to be of note. And let me just go ahead and touch on the standings. I'm sorry, a few things. Injuries. We usually talk about injuries. Good thing from today, no injuries for the Carolina Panthers. So we came out pretty healthy. That's something to build on, something to continue to focus on staying healthy, get all your guys out there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the current standings. As again, the Carolina Panthers fall to the New Orleans Saints. Uh-oh, I don't know if I got my screen right. Ready? 1 second here. I may just have to read this to you. I don't think that I had my graphics ready for you guys. Here we go. So here are your standings, and this was as of 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. Buccaneers are currently playing, so this really will still be accurate until later tonight. New Orleans Saints, number 1, after beating the Carolina Panthers today. The Buccaneers currently playing. I'll tell you who the Buccaneers are playing at this moment. Buccaneers are currently playing the Washington Commanders. In that game, the Buccaneers currently lead 13-7. That game is currently at the 2-minute warning, and that game is in Tampa Bay. The Carolina Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons today falling to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The final score in that game was 18-10. So there you have it. Carolina and the Falcons are your bottom at the list right now in the NFC South. So Coach Canales, he had a chance to speak with the media today, and give me a moment. We're going to get Coach Canales' remarks on here for you all to take a listen to. Give me a second. I'm going to get this on the screen for you all. There we go. Coach Canales. 1 second. Here we go. Coach Canales. Coach Canales and his opening remarks for his press conference.
We learned a lot about ourselves today. I think a group of guys that haven't played a lot of football together, the communication, working off of each other, playing those things, that's all stuff that we got to get to as we look at the film. So for me, I think, the positive.
All right, 1 second. I did not get that going exactly as I intended to. Give me a moment. I'm going to get Dave Canales' post-game comments up here for you guys. My apologies for the delay here. Let's see. Give me just a second. Your boy hit a wrong button. All right, we're going to have to do that one more time. So let's get this going again one more time. What I'm getting for you guys is Dave Canales' press conference, his opening statement I wanted to play for you all so you can hear from the horse's mouth. I'm sure many of you, just like me, wondered, okay, Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky, Mr. Good Spirit, Mr. Motivation, how will he respond when there's adversity? And I don't think you're going to get much more. Well, you could continue to lose, which I'm certainly not hoping is the case, but how much more adversity could you be looking at when you start off your very first game in the regular season and you lose 47-10? Like you got to find it quickly, else you're going to. I don't even want to say. I don't want to say it. I only want to speak positive things right here. But it's imperative that he find it. So give me a second. I think I'm going to get it right this time in playing Canales' comments here.
Those are critical factors. It flips the field. It gives them more possessions. And even when we had our chances, we didn't get our first completion for a while there. So just all around, just poor execution in all phases, and particularly when you turn the ball over and you give that offense chances. And what we found out is this is a pretty good offense. And we learned a lot about ourselves today. I think a group of guys that haven't played a lot of football together, the communication, working off of each other, playing those things, that's all stuff that we got to get to as we look at the film. So for me, I think, the positive I can take out of it is
I know a lot of stuff was going on the screen, so I'm going to pause for a second. And hopefully you guys were able to hear all of that from Coach Canales right there. So I want to pause it to comment on a few things that he said from the beginning. Number one, talking about the lack of playing time that these guys have had. He obviously has to find things to say, right? You have to have a response for something, and this is his very first time in a regular season having a loss. But saying like the lack of time that these guys have together, it happens every year in the NFL. Every year in the NFL, there's roster turnover, there's coaching changes, and you spend time gelling together, and everybody has to go through it. There's new players on the Saints team. There's new players on every team in the NFL. So lack of time together, I don't know, Dave. The guys have as much time as everybody in the league to get ready and get prepared for a game. Does this mean he should have played them together more during the preseason? I'm not going to say 100% if these guys had played together more in the preseason that they would be, the score would have been completely the opposite. But I would have felt better about it because I kept saying there's so many new pieces, so many new guys on the offensive line, so many people, offensive coordinator, new coach, just new stuff that you're trying to do. And why not go through live fire practice to make sure that your team is operating correctly? Now, Dave did say, during he didn't want to get guys out there before everything was in sync with the communications, the calls, the protections, and I get that. But I feel like there could have been a way that you controlled it and maybe just even had these guys out there for a series or two. What was the other comment that he said there? He said about the playing time, and he said that he found out that these guys are pretty good on offense. Well, that's an interesting comment to me because it's like, what do you think? You thought they were pretty bad? I mean, they have some good pieces on there. I'm not saying they were, a powerhouse, a Miami Dolphins just going out there running up points with like a Tyreek Hill, but they do have some pretty good core receivers in Olave and Rashid. They got Alvin Kamara. They got Taysom Hill, who's just a guy that's phenomenal. I know he's in his 30s, first time as a captain for the Saints. He plays all over the field for the New Orleans Saints, giving them many different looks, giving you many different things that you have to prepare for. I know at one point in the game, you're able to disguise it because he goes in so many different places, but he lines up as the quarterback, runs and gets the first down. It's like, oh, that wasn't Derek Carr. That was Taysom Hill that was out there. So, whoops. Things like that, Just let me go ahead and finish playing the rest of Dave's comments here. Bear with me as I try to flip back and forth between the screens, but I'm going to go ahead and play the rest of Dave's comments here.
Each other, playing those things, that's all stuff that we got to get to as we look at the film. So for me, I think, the positive I can take out of it is the way that the guys stuck together and just kept playing hard. There's nothing more I can ask for when you're, faced with a situation we're so far behind already in the first half, can we just keep playing football? And I asked them to do that, and they responded. And the defense ran and tackled the whole time at the end. The offense just played all the way through, trying to execute, until the very end of the game. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of these guys. Nobody turning on each other, none of that. Just guys that were ready to take their responsibility. And for sure, as the head coach, I got to be the first one to take responsibility and look at what we have to do going forward.
All right, apologize by the repeating screen that I come up there for a second, but that was some more of Dave Canales talking about this game today and how his players responded. I think his post-game speeches will get a little bit better, win or lose, when talking about the team, saying that the guys didn't quit, They played through. What are they going to do, walk out? They can't. We're not going to play the second half, Dave. No, they're going to continue to play. They're going to continue to be out there. And I don't think that they're going to turn on you after the first game. But my criticism of Canales is that I would have preferred that he started off that press conference just flat out saying it's unacceptable. It's not how we're going to play. I take responsibility for it. I got to get these guys prepared. I thought we were better prepared than something along those lines. Something along those lines. You got to come out and just really take ownership of something like this when you get beat so badly in the game, especially starting off the season and you're the new coach. So those were some of the comments from Dave. I'm going to play one more comment from Dave Canales in terms of from his press conference. And then I think I might have a few more things, but certainly we'll take it from you all as far as taking some questions about this game today. Again, Carolina Panthers lost today, 47-10. It was bad. Didn't have much of an opportunity most of the game. So let me go ahead and play one more clip from Dave Canales' press conference today. Again, bear with me. You're going to see the screen flicker for a second, but then you're going to see Dave come on. All right, for some reason that video is not wanting to play for me. I'm going to try one more time, so give me another 10 to 15 seconds. I'm not sure why that video didn't start, but again, I'm going to play one more clip from Dave Canales' press conference today. One second here. So that was Canales saying, well, responding to the question of, can you tell me any bright spots from Bryce Young today? And he said that, pre-snap stuff. Basically not much. So tough day down here in New Orleans. Let me just make sure I don't have anything else from my notes that I want to stick out and share with you guys. If not, then we'll go ahead and get into the normal post-game Q&A that we'll do for a little bit here this afternoon. Let's see. Just trying to find my notes here so we can keep on rocking and rolling. All right. First week for me, so I guess I'm a little rusty on some of my things here. Yeah, I think that'll be it. I have a lot of little knickknacks from the game today, things that I didn't like that I saw. But I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to you guys. All right. So we're gonna get some Q&A from you all about this team today. No particular order. Let's get it. All right. S.G. Thomas, do we at least have the foundation? Tepper in the background. Tillis will help Dan cook. Give Dave some more weapons. Somebody tell me we are going to be okay. You know what? That's a very good. This is how you feel today, though, right? You can't help but feel like that after watching this game today. I'll tell you, I felt like lifeless in the press box early on, just like this cannot be deja vu. This feels different than the Frank Reich thing. This feels different than the Matt Rule thing. This just felt different, but yet I'm seeing the same exact results on the field. What is happening? I haven't lost confidence in this team. I haven't lost confidence in the coach. But I'm definitely upset about what happened today. Do I feel like things can turn around? I do. I certainly feel like Dave Canales is a guy that is right now already re-engineering things, verifying his processes, talking with his coaches, and figuring out, like, man, this has to go a different way. What are we going to do? What can we change? I'm quite sure Dan Morgan is on that plane as well, talking to Dave and trying to figure things out. I don't feel like it's, panic time yet. I feel like, it'd be weeks before I would say, oh, yeah, it's time to panic. But it was for me, it was about the worst case scenario you could have for a first-year coach, but I will give him some grace being that he is the first-year coach. So let's go ahead and make sure we put that into our minds, right? Was this game good? No, it was bad. Was the coaching good? No, it was awful. We never had any life in my eyes when watching this game. You look at offensive line, a lot of money was spent there. Robert Hunt, a lot of money spent there. Lewis. And what did you see? You didn't see any push on that offensive side. Defensive side, who were we excited about? Jadeveon Clowney. Did you see a big impact from Jadeveon Clowney today? No. Was he terrible? No. But did you see a big impact? You did not. Did you see push from that defensive side? Getting into the backfield, stopping and run too often? No, you didn't see that. So it was a lot of things that you just, what's going on here? And I'm very surprised, extremely surprised that, I had a lot of confidence in Ivero on the defensive side more than I did on the offensive side, and they got us. They got us. And it was bad. So SG, definitely don't sugarcoat this game today. It was awful, but once you get that bad taste out your mouth, okay, first-year coach, game one, on the road, loud place in New Orleans, because it was really loud here. All right, I'm going to tune in next week, and I'm going to cheer you guys on, see what we do next week at Bank of America Stadium. After the game next week, then you can't have a new opinion yet, but at that point I can start to say, okay, I'm now starting to have stronger convictions about where we're going to go, what we need to do. Is he going to get it right? How's this looking? But after one game, it's just not a large enough sample. SG Thomas, thank you so much for the comment there. Lord Bezeldorf, same SGA, a lot of missed throws. So I'm going to touch on that in a second. And as you guys know, expect me to take a drink of water during the show. So give me just 1 second. Yeah, hold on 1 second. I probably need a water sponsor for the show, for the way that I have to take a large sip of drink during the game. So, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Bryce a little bit more. And I want to also encourage you guys, if you're watching right now, to go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It's tough, but consider becoming a member, because this is the one thing I can guarantee you. There's not going to be anybody else in the media that continues to dig into this team, no matter what's happening, to get you answers, interviews with players, answer your questions, and give you as much analysis on this team than I will throughout this season. Bryce Young did not look all that good today. He didn't. There were still some throws where we're missing. We're missing people on the throws. Now, I don't know if early on he just got rattled, because I feel like, his first throw was an interception. He threw 2 interceptions today. But he had some guys that were open down the field on some plays where they were, I don't know if I'd say deep, but I'd say, 30 yards down the field, maybe 20 to 30 yards down the field. And the touch wasn't there. It wasn't there. So there is some concern for, Bryce getting it right, and Bryce being in a situation where he can get that same confidence that we might see in a preseason game or in a practice, and see that carry over to a game. But yes, Bryce Young didn't look that good today. He didn't look that good connecting with all of his players. Now, maybe he made his reads properly. I saw a few times where he didn't see a guy that was open. again, why is it happening? I don't know. But I don't want to spend too much time. I feel like I was about to go down a rabbit hole talking about all my observations from Bryce today. But I'll just go back and say it wasn't anything that made you say, okay, we're about to have that switch flipped, especially when you throw an interception on your very first pass of the game. How does he bounce back from it? I don't know. It's a concern, though. It's a concern to have. And then here we go from Ruth Lewis. Please fire head coach Dave Canales. He embarrassed his team today. He is no good. Please fire him, Mr. Tepper. Now, obviously, you have every right to not be happy with Dave. I started my show off by telling you guys he disappointed me today greatly, like tremendously. This was a coaching disaster. There's many other things you could talk about. Well, this player didn't do this, or house section. This was a coaching disaster. You talked about how the players were locked in, how they're focused. Of course, people are going to see that you come into the press conference, you're always like, hey, and you talk about things from a real positive standpoint, and you should. I'm not saying he should be a negative guy, but I did not see at any point today this Carolina Panthers team looking like they were fired up, like they had that swagger, like they had that fire, like they were coming out here to attack and knew they were playing a division opponent, starting out the first game in their home, and they needed to come with it. I didn't see it, and that comes from your coach. The leadership, it comes from your coach, and then it trickles down. So Canales doesn't need to be fired yet. You fire him. Who are you going to find? Second week of the other. You're going to get Belichick, and here all of a sudden you're going to change everything after. So that's not going to happen. But I get what you're saying. You're not happy with his performance, and you want this team to win. I'm with you. I'm with you so much. All right, let me see if I can get to any other comments here before we get out of here. Brian D., anyone ready to talk about this Evero scheme not being it? Same results on defense like last year. The 3-4 doesn't work. Brian, the defense was good last year. Now, as we talk about Evero and last year, and I certainly want to make sure we start focusing more on this year, it was a good defense last year. Now, they did struggle a little bit with the run, but you also, let's not forget how many injuries were piling up week after week for Evero. I felt like things last year at many points were going to be way, way, way worse than they were. And to me, they maintained pretty good. He was able to use his scheme and use his personnel to continue to, did an excellent job with that next man up. And things were different today. I still feel like Canales ultimately has some responsibility for what has happened. You could go a little bit further saying Dan Morgan because he's in charge of the guys, but, the guys, they just didn't have that continuity, that execution, that swagger that you need to win in a Sunday on the NFL. But, Brian, thank you so much for your comments here. Ronnie B., from your perspective, was it all execution today or was coaching bad? It was – it starts from the coaching. It starts from the coaching. I'm going to do another show tomorrow where I'll be able to give more details about exact plays and exact trends that I saw on offense, defense, secondary, line, Bryce, etc. It was a lot to soak in today to be able to go into that kind of deep analysis without some assistance resource-wise. But if you're interested in more of a breakdown, please, Ronnie, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications tomorrow. I believe the show's at 7 Eastern, but just if you turn on your notifications, you'll be notified. And we'll go deeper into it tomorrow. But appreciate you tuning in, Ronnie, and appreciate the question. The Panthers don't want you, Chris, to play this video, apparently. Why? What's going on? Oh, you're probably talking about when I was trying to play the Coach Canales stuff. Yeah, quite possibly. And look at this. We lost Dante and Luvu for what? Yeah, it wasn't pretty, man. It was far from pretty. Let me see if I can get through a few more comments here, and then we're going to wrap things up. who we drafted with the first pick, man. I'll say this: if we end up with, I'm not going to talk it into existence. I know you guys are upset. I'm upset too, but I'm not going back down that road for, the first pick. I'm not going down that road. The defensive line looked like they were moving in slow motion. Yeah. Absolutely. Like I said earlier, the defense, you didn't see any push. Offensive line, you didn't see any. Like, you did not see much. You just saw guys kind of maybe holding their spot and then just kind of waiting for things to come. And that's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough to just simply hold your position while Kamara runs at you or Taysom Hill runs at you, because he ran the ball several times today too. Let me go ahead again. I usually don't go through the stats of the opposite team that much, but let me just talk about the stats for Taysom Hill today and how effective he was for them. Give me a second to get this up. And then I also want to talk about the time of possession and the turnovers. Other factors that played, turnovers played a role in the game. Time of possession just shows you how lopsided this game was. So we're going to touch on that here in just a second. But I want to get to the Taysom Hill stats from today. All right, almost there. All right, so I'm just going to touch on the Saints stats. Derek Carr, 19 of 23. 19 of 23. You don't complete 19 of 23 passes if you're under stress. If the defensive line is giving you push, you complete 19 of 23 when you have some time to throw the ball, when you have clear lanes, when you have guys open. So by far not good enough. He had a passer rating of 142.5, extremely high. Threw for almost 200 yards. And we had Taysom Hill, 5 rushes, averaged nearly 7 yards per carry for 35 yards. And then Taysom Hill on the receiving end, he just had 1 catch for 2. So he was more effective on the rush today than he was on the reception. He played many different positions. So, I thought he had done a lot more than that, but I know he still was a piece. He had that 1 pass. It was almost a touchdown that was broken up. That was pretty good. And anyway, let's continue to work through some of these comments. I'm going to go through one more comment before I get out of here. Let's see. I got one more comment that I'll get on before I get out of here. All right, we're going to end with this one. The fact to protect players, then use the idea of not playing more than 1 series in the preseason is ridiculous. New team, new staff needed to participate in preseason to get these fixable situations corrected. I'm going to go through one more. I like your comments, but those are things I touched on earlier. So I want to end on something that is a new question or statement. Let me just go back here to the top. How about this? Got to set up my members. Your boy Kales. Same stuff, different year. Thank you for being a member. Sorry for the outcome today. Ali Bodrick. Welcome back, Chris. Not a good way to start off the season. Absolutely the worst way possible. Give my members some love here. Hey, I'm very mad. Hopefully he saw my tweet sharing my feelings about the game. So I'm not able to see tweets during the game. We have a new member of Charlotte Vibe. His name is Brian Gallagher. He was manning the Twitter today. Doesn't travel with us. He's back in Charlotte. So, Shaked, I didn't see it, but I'm sure I will see it. And from me knowing you over the years, I already know your frustration. I'm sure that you probably struggled to get to the end of this game, and I did too. I was pacing back and forth. And as you can see, do not have positive words of affirmation from Mr. Dave Canales today from the results of this game. He takes full responsibility for this game. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off from here. We'll go with the king here. We suck. The Panthers suck so bad it's not even funny. Bryce is not an NFL QB. Season 2, week 1. Not the time yet to officially put the stamp on. He can improve. He's going to be bad or he will be great. But I will give you this, King. after season 2, yes, you can start to say where this guy is going to go. And I feel like your opinion of him after that point, after 2 seasons, would be something that you could hang your hat on in terms of where he may go. So it's definitely a season where you expect and need to see some change in Bryce Young to start to have a different feeling about him in terms of being the quarterback that could take care of this team. Hey, thank you all so much for supporting. I don't know what the season is going to be like, right? I don't know if we're going to have many more games where it's 47-10. I don't know if we're going to suddenly flip the switch. But this is what I can promise you by being a member of this channel and supporting Charlotte Vibe. Whatever happens, good or bad, I'm going to cover it for you in depth, in detail, till the wheels come off. Till there's no Carolina Panthers, I'm going to cover this team. I will already traveling over to Germany, so that's set. We got you, all right? So I'm going to be in it with you for those who are struggling after this game 1. And we'll be back in Charlotte tomorrow, and we'll be back in Charlotte next Sunday playing against the Chargers. For Charlotte Vibe, I'm Chris Jenkins.